The warmest years globally have all occurred since 1998, with the top 10 being 2016, 2019, 2015, 2017, 2018, 2014, 2010, 2013, and 2005 and 1999 being tied. This shows that climate change is progressively getting worse.
This is because of rising emission levels of greenhouse gases, which deteriorate the ozone, disturb wildlife habitats, and add to our negatively changing climate.
And while it may be hard to see on the surface, the oceans are being affected by climate change too. Ocean acidification and warming waters are rapidly killing coral reefs and the ecosystems that surround them.
Along with coral reefs, there are many other effects that climate change poses to our oceans, including rising water levels and melting polar ice caps.
Another factor that is contributing to climate change is that the ozone layer is rapidly decreasing. This is due to the fact of the amount of greenhouse gases and emissions that we put in our atmosphere.
Okay, so deforestation is the clearing, destroying, and removal of trees, and this can be done through deliberate or natural causes. Most of the deforestation that happens, it happens in densely populated forests, such as the Amazon rainforest. The Amazon rainforest is where most of the deforestation occurs in the world today. As you can see from the picture on the left, the Amazon rainforest is being severely impacted by it and has lost a lot of tree coverage in this area. And as you can see from both of the pictures on the right, the aftermath and impacts that deforestation can cause. Deforestation contributes to climate change by increasing the amount of greenhouse gases released and causing soil erosion and flooding. Deforestation causes an increase of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, and this is due to the fact that forests are carbon sinks. And what a carbon sink is, it is just anywhere that takes in more carbon dioxide than they release. And this is due to the fact that trees and forests go through photosynthesis, where they take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen, which we breathe. In 2017, the author Lauren Bennett wrote in an article, climate.org, stating that forests store more than double the amount of carbon dioxide than what is found in the atmosphere, and this is because forests are carbon sinks. In 2018, the organization Rainforest Alliance wrote an article in rainforest-alliance.org stating that deforestation causes 10% of worldwide emissions. And as you can see from the picture on the left, that deforestation is the third most contributor to CO2 emissions, just under China and the United States. When trees are cut down, the deforesters will burn the remainders of the trees, and the fires that are from this will also release greenhouse gases. In 2013, the Union of Concerned Scientists wrote an article in UCSUSA.org stating that 3 billion tons of CO2 are released from gross deforestation. Gross deforestation only takes into account the trees that are cut down and doesn't take into account the regrowth that happens once trees are cut down or new trees being planted in this area. Along with emissions from greenhouse gases such as CO2, deforestation also alters the landscape of an area. Deforestation causes soil erosion and flooding. Trees and forests help the land to retain water in topsoil, which provides nutrients that are vital for forests to be able to survive and thrive. In 2019, the organization Pachama Alliance wrote an article that stated, in places where deforestation has occurred, there is less water in the atmosphere that can be returned into the soil. And this is bad for the landscape because when the soil does not have water in it, it can be more easily blown away by wind or washed away by water. And when it's washed away, the water can go down into rivers and creeks. When trees are taken away and deforested, this causes their root systems to die. And with the root systems, they help to keep all the soil and sediment in place in an area. This will leave the land unsustainable and more susceptible to flooding. In 2020, the author Rhett Butler wrote an article in mangabay.com stating that after a raining period, the soil in an area that has just been recently deforested will erode and wash away into rivers and creeks nearby. And as you can see from the picture on the left, once the trees are cut down, the landscape is changed and the river banks and the river is changed. When the soil erodes, it will go into the riverbanks, causing a buildup of sediments. So when it rains, the river will overflow, which will cause flooding. And this can affect neighboring communities and the quality of water. And as you can see from the picture on the right, that the quality of water is very murky due to the increase of sediments and soil within the water. Deforestation can have many detrimental effects on the environment and landscape. It will also continue to release greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and alter the landscape through soil erosion and flooding. Deforestation is contributing to climate change, and the effects of this will be irreversible. Oh my God, okay.
According to a 2018 World Health Organization study, 92% of the world lives in unsafe levels of smog. This is because of a mix of burned fossil fuels mixing with the ozone layer to create smog. Because smog decreases plant growth and weakens the ozone layer, it rapidly accelerates climate change. One of the main contributors to the destruction of the ozone layer is smog. When pollutants mix with ozone air, it becomes harmful to the environment. There are two parts of the ozone layer, as you can see in the graphic. There's the outer part, the stratosphere, that protects from UV rays, and the other is the troposphere. We breathe this air, and it contains smog. Data from the World Economic Forum shows that between 1980 and 2018, CO2 emissions increased by 15%, and this percentage continues to rise in 2020. With the decline of the ozone health, this directly affects plant growth. A study from UC Davis in 2019 shows that smog accelerates plant growth by upmost of 40%. Smog doesn't allow sunlight to penetrate, which decreases photosynthesis rates. Without this, plants cannot reproduce or grow or emit oxygen. Smog and climate change go hand in hand. In a 2017 Yale study, Bjorn Samset, an environmentalist, explains that smog acts like a mirror to sunlight. Since smog is impenetrable, it sends UV rays right back up. This effect continues to damage the already suffering stratospheric ozone layer. Sunlight doesn't reach the Earth's surface, which leads to a cooling effect and results in the tug of war between Earth's rising and falling temperatures.
You're muted.
Sorry. So in this picture, it is the 5 layers of the atmosphere: the troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, and exosphere. And the troposphere is where we do our daily living and all that. The stratosphere is where the ozone layer is located, where it's right under the troposphere, but it's it's right above the troposphere, in between where they connect. This is important because the ozone layer protects or provides protection from sun's harmful rays and absorbs UV light. This is a picture. This represents the ozone right here. The dark blue circle is where the ozone layer hole is, what they call it. This is caused by chloroform carbons, which are chlorine and fluorine combined with carbon and they basically eat the ozone layer away. Oh wow. Chloroformins in ice, they get trapped in ice, and when it gets warmer in the poles, they are released, and this is what's causing the ozone layer to deplete so rapidly. This slide is showing what the ozone layer actually provides and what it's doing for us. So the ozone layer protects us from UV rays, like I said before, radiation, which can cause skin cancer and other types of diseases like, I do not know how to say it. Oh, next slide, I'm sorry. Yeah, it can cause health problems. So this one is what the ozone layer decreasing has done. It is, you can see it has increased precipitation near the equator in the ozone hole on the right, and you can compare it to the left. What slide am I on? Okay. So what this slide is showing you what climate change has done for the ozone layer. It speeds up the amount of heat that is trapped in the atmosphere, and it is also due to the fact that there's less ozone in the atmosphere to protect us from the UV rays. It causes many skin disorders like malaria. It's the leading cause of deaths and skin cancer. Okay, next slide. This is a bad picture, I'm sorry, but it's showing that how the ozone layer has gotten worse over time. So from 1995 to 2007, you can see that where the red spot is where the ozone is not really there anymore. And the dark purple spots is also the hole too. Many scientists say that about 80% of the chloroform and bromine are from humans and not natural. They also say that within the next decade that the ozone should come back if we take the correct steps to help build it back up. And from 2004 to 2007, 20% of the ozone has actually came back. So that's a good thing. And most scientists also predict that by 2040, if we take the correct steps, that the ozone layer should be almost fully recovered, but not back to its normal state.
While it may be hard to see on the surface, the oceans are being affected by climate change too. Warming waters and ocean acidification are rapidly killing coral reefs and the ecosystems that surround them. And while it may not seem like a threat to humans, it very well could be in the near future. Modern coral has been around for 400 million years, and with other global temperature changes like the Ice Age 2.4 million years ago, they have adapted and overcome. However, today they must do so faster. Coral is made up of the coral structure and the algae that lives within the polyps. They live in a symbiotic relationship where the algae provides food in the form of energy through photosynthesis to the structure, while the structure provides protection from storms to the algae. In a 2018 CarnegieScience.edu article, on ocean acidification. They call calcification the process by which the coral structure takes in calcium from ocean water and adds it to the structure in order to expand and reproduce. According to the climate change section of the GreatBarrierReef.org, since the 18th century, around the Industrial Revolution, oceans have absorbed 30% of excess carbon dioxide generated by human activities. This carbon dioxide dissolves in ocean water to become carbonic acid, which dissolves the coral structure and harms the algae living within the polyps. This causes the polyps to expel the algae in a process called bleaching, which is when the coral turns a white color and eventually leads to the coral starving and dying. In Sarah Gibbons' June 2020 article for National Geographic called "Scientists Are Trying to Save Coral Reefs," she said that people first noticed coral bleaching in 1980, and the El Nino event in 2016 brought it to the global stage as 1/3 of the Great Barrier Reef bleached, and since then, half of the Great Barrier Reef has continued to bleach. This NOAA.gov graphic called "How Does Climate Change Affect Coral Reefs" is a great visual representation of the different aspects of climate change and how they affect coral reefs. Warming ocean waters contribute a thermal stress to coral reefs, causing them to die. As sea levels rise, so does the seabed, which covers coral reefs in sand and debris. Stronger, more frequent storms can be very damaging to coral reefs. And in 2016, Kenneth Anthony published his research on coral reefs and climate change in the Annual Reviews Journal. And he said that while storms can be beneficial to coral reefs by killing weak coral and encouraging the reproduction of strong, healthy coral in a process similar to Darwin's survival of the fittest, stronger, more frequent storms can be harmful as it kills the coral faster than it can reproduce, slowing the rate of reproduction. Runoff contributes to sediment and pollution in the oceans, killing corals, and changing ocean currents contribute to the thermal stress on corals by changing the temperature of the environment in which the coral lives. And since coral is sedentary and cannot move, it cannot escape the changing ocean temperatures. And we already touched on this, but ocean acidification is the greenhouse gases and carbon dioxide from the atmosphere dissolving into the ocean to kill coral reefs. In a NOAA article last updated in 2019, said that reefs act as a barrier for coastal communities. This is because the reef edge and outer reef protect the shoreline from the damaging effect of storm surges by absorbing the energy from the high impact waves generated by these storms, so that less harmful waves are reaching the shoreline, slowing erosion. Man-made barriers can also have the same effect by protecting coastal communities. However, unlike coral reefs, they cannot naturally regenerate and must be maintained by humans. As ocean levels rise and coral reefs die, man-made structures can fail and cause global or widespread flooding in coastal communities, which can lead to billions of dollars in damage and the loss of human life.
All right. Did you know that scientists believed that rising sea levels could cause island nations like the Bahamas to think about being underwater as early as 2050? Many people don't think about sea level rising as a very pressing issue due to the fact that it happens slowly and must be observed over time. That being said, the rate at which the levels are rising has increased in recent decades, so the problem is only getting worse. In this presentation, you're going to learn about 3 different causes of the sea levels rising and ways to combat them to make the Earth a safer place. First, the main cause of sea levels rising having a dramatic increase is due to the melting of land ice around the world. This is ice that is found on land in large scales, much like the glaciers of Alaska. Immediate effects of this melting were seen as loss of habitat for many animals. That being said, in recent years, there have been more studies conducted about how much this melting is causing the sea levels to rise. In 2013, Carbon Brief posted an article stating between 2005 and 2011, melting ice sheets and glaciers were responsible for about 75% of the seas rise altogether. Since those years, we have also been seeing sea levels increase even faster. In 2020, the National Snow and Ice Data Center stated that if all land ice melted, the sea would approximately rise 70 meters worldwide. There would still be many cities above ground, but many below ground as well. There are still many ways that we could go about trying to help stopping the melting of this land ice. The best way to do this is reducing your carbon footprint. And good examples to help do that is eating less red meat, carpooling with somebody to work, stuff like that. That being said, there's only so much that one person can do. And what we really have to do is look at big companies and corporations and hold them accountable as well. The next cause is the melting of polar ice caps in both the North and South Pole. Very similar to melting of land ice, but in the case of Antarctica, an entire continent slowly melting away due to global warming. This, along with land ice, is what has made the oceans rise significantly recently. In 2018, Kristen Walbolt wrote an article on climatenasa.gov that stated, since 1979, sea ice in the Arctic Ocean covers about 40% less than the area in the past. Other effects that the melting has is loss of habitats for many animals that call those areas home. In 2020, on science.ucar.edu, they stated, global warming is causing soils in the polar regions that have been frozen for as much as 40,000 years to thaw and release carbon. Because of the melting of land and polar ice caps has the same cause, they also have very similar solutions though. The best ways to help reduce the polar ice caps from melting is reducing your carbon emissions, and one really good way to do that is to be conscious about where your trash ends up and what can be recycled. The final cause of sea levels increasing is thermal expansion of seawater as it warms. As global warming continues, the Earth is continuing to see hotter temperatures throughout the year. Due to this, the temperature of water in our oceans has been increasing as well. Even the small increase in temperature of water can cause the water level to rise slightly. In 2016, Corey Harnish wrote an article on Better World International that stated each year the temperature difference would add up to an increase of about 1/8 of an inch in sea levels. This number doesn't seem like a lot, but over many years could easily affect the coasts of many countries bordering oceans. That being said, this has been occurring for centuries and makes a much smaller difference than the melting of land ice and polar ice caps. As greenhouse gas emissions continue, so will this issue. I think one of the best solutions towards this is electric powered machines, much like Tesla's cars, and the world needs to continue pushing in that direction in order to help save our Earth. The Earth is the only planet we get. In order to help keep it healthy, we must all take an effort to reduce our carbon emissions and use clean energy. The best ways to do this are looking for energy efficient options whenever possible, and everyone making small habits to help protect the world. The more humans can do this as a collective group, the less water levels will rise. This is very important if more cities around the world don't want to turn into Venice with canals instead of roads.
As you can see from the data shown, climate change is affecting the world around us in significant ways. Global warming is affecting everything from the stratosphere to the bottom of the ocean.